The anime begins with Feria cheering up as she witnesses the defeat of the Dark Lord. The Dark Lord vanishes into the depths. Then, all the dark clouds disappear and the sky shines with bright sunlight. She thanks the hero for fighting so hard. It was his effort that allowed her to see the day of happiness and freedom. The hero turns around and speaks in a mysterious voice, saying that he has also been waiting for this moment. Feria lifts her face in surprise. However, the hero jumps high above the ground and kicks Feria's face. Rakurou jumps in excitement at the end of this immersive virtual reality game. Unlike the advanced tech games with excellent graphics, these trash games that Rakurou loves to play have ordinary graphics and the worst storyline. Most people hate games like these, but freaks like Rakurou search for such games and collect a pile of them. Rakurou stands by his room's window and feels immense joy at ending that trash game, which makes him feel like a convict finishing a prison sentence. But as a trash game hunter, he is now looking for a new trash game. Rakurou gets out of his room to get ready for school. He begins walking towards the school after telling his mom that her butterfly flew away from the frame. After a long time playing the game, Rakurou feels drowsy and restless. At school, Rei wants to talk to him, but his friends take him away. Summer vacations are around the corner, and everybody in the school plans where to spend their time. Most of them plan to go abroad. A game shop owner named Mana places a few posters on the wall of her shop. She is hopeful that students will buy more games during vacations. Suddenly, Rei enters the shop, and she is there to search for Rakurou. Rei tries to look around silently. Her eyes search for Rakurou, but she does not find him. She absent-mindedly replies that she has just returned from the academy, but Mana knows Rei wants to know if Rakurou has arrived or not. She explains that Rakurou did not come there yet. It startles Rei that Mana knows what's in her heart, and she tries so hard to hide her feelings from her. She denies that she just came to get a new game. But Mana tells her that she does not need to be afraid because she knows about her feelings. Mana explains that Rakurou has not returned after getting an extra special game. Since he has been trying to crack it, Mana shows her the game DVD. It is Phalia Chronicles, and Rei already knows about the game through her sister. Mana explains that this legendary trash game has an enemy that attacks in a weird pattern, and many bugs annoy the player too much. She had heard that many players got frustrated when they tried to kill the first boss but could not. She explains the better part of the game is when the player has to fight the final boss in board shorts and a mask. Suddenly, they hear the door open and turn their heads to see who their customer is. It's Rakurou, who asks Mana to give him a new trash game. At the same time, Mana turns her head towards Rei, but she is already gone. Then Mana asks if he beat Feria. Rakurou excitedly shares that he beat that trash game and the game was garbage. But the lead character irritated him the most throughout the game. She had the worst habit of making every situation worse, getting villagers and party members killed, and blaming it on the final boss. The worst part is she refused to move if you lifted a finger at her. So you would remain locked in the same game point for the next 3 hours, and then you can start your game. As Rakurou thinks more about the trash game, he gets angrier. But then, after all the annoying times with Feria, you get 3 minutes of pure joy between beating the final boss and before the credits start rolling. You can beat the crap out of Feria without fear of retribution, and he is happy that the game gave him a reason to live. Mana listens to Rakurou while Rei watches him from a corner. Rakurou doesn't know what game he should get next. Mana shows her the poster and shares that she will tell him about a non-trash game whose story is juicy and has multi-million views. She insists that Rakurou must sometimes enjoy other games and winks at him. Rakurou finally brings a good-tier non-trash game named Shangri-La Frontier. He comes home and scrolls on the internet to find the highlights of the SLF game. Then he discovers that UES makes it, and the haters get backlash from the game fans if they speak ill of it. After finishing his drink, Rakurou puts on his VR headset to play UES, a spectacular game. As the game begins, Rakurou has to choose his occupation before proceeding, so he selects mercenary. Afterwards, he is asked to adopt a style and appearance. Rakurou excitedly picks a bird's mask to put over his face. Then he enters the name on the computer. Rakurou registers as Sunraku. Before the game begins, they ask him to lie down, and he obeys. Then, he enters the first round of the game. It feels so real that he tries walking and running on the tree trunk. The game is marvelous compared to Phalia. He stands on the edge of a cliff and appreciates the immense landscape of the game. There is a large bridge in the world of SLF. He opens the game map to learn about the paths as a beginner. He listens to the instructions and finds an area saved on the map named Firstia. He wants to jump with immense jumping and landing power. When he lands on the ground properly, he appreciates the game's controls and walks towards Firstia. Rakurou surprisingly stares at his stats, where he has higher luck, so he decides to fight to gain a higher level. Suddenly, a goblin falls from the tree with an axe in his hand and attacks, jumping high over his neck. Rakurou has been given 2 knives in the game, so after deflecting the attack, he aims for the goblin's neck and kills it. His axe dropped to the ground. Rakurou looks at his level, which is now level 2, promoted from level 1. He lifts the hand axe and looks at it. At the same time, he feels as if someone is looking at him from behind the bushes. Its fiery red eyes scare him. At the same time, he whispers that the joy he gets in such new games and exploring the new world is impossible in the real world. It's like the hidden monster reads his mind and attacks him from a distance. A killer bunny tries to attack him, but the attack goes unfruitful as he gets aside quickly and dodges it. Suddenly, the bunny attacks him again, coming from a greater distance, and runs towards him to stab him. But Rakurou stops the attack and kills the bunny with his dual sword counterattack. Afterwards, he sees the status window where he is leveled to level 4. Suddenly, he realizes he was immersed in the game and forgot to notice that this top-tier game was free of annoying bugs. As he is free from any enemy right away, Rakurou begins stretching his body muscles. He realizes that not encountering a crappy bug is very entertaining as you don't face any interruptions in the game. Rakurou loves Bunny's knife and starts walking in the forest to search for it. But suddenly, an ogre jumps on his head and attacks him. However, he is efficient in controlling counterattacks. Moreover, the bunny is an exceptional enemy who would help him scale up his skills. Also, fighting with random enemies has increased his level to 12. Now he is bored of small jungle fights and wants to move to another place for better battles with ferocious enemies. Then, without further delay, he opens the map again to find the next place to stay. The next stop after Firstia is Secondale. He closes the map after setting the location as it would be easier to reach there quickly. But to reach that town, he has to cross a bridge. He did not know that a snake named Ravenous Python was sitting at the beginning of the bridge, stopping and killing anyone trying to cross it. He knows that common snake attack tactics can include coiling and tail swipes, so he reaches the bridge and attacks the snake with his twin swords, while Rakurou is lying on his bed with a VR headset, smiling as he enjoys the game. Now, the starting town Firstia seems interesting for its detail-oriented setup. Suddenly, the people in the starting level town are surprised to see a character in extraordinarily strong armor, which is unusual for the residents of Firstia to see someone like that there. The person in the heavy metallic armor analyzes each character's name, and it seems that she is in search of Rakurou. From their names, she wants to judge whether Rakurou has been here or not. He gives similar names to all his characters, but she hopes she will find Rakurou there as it's impossible to pass on to the next level without crossing this town. At the same time, a girl lying on the bed removes her VR headset. She is none other than Mei, who appeared in the metallic armor in the SLF game. Rei feels sad, thinking that she might have missed Rakurou. On the other hand, Rakurou has to fight and kill the Ravenous Python to reach Secondale. As soon as he comes in front of it, he analyzes Python's stats and grabs two swords in his hand to attack with full force. Rakurou chooses to attack from a distance, but Python throws him away in a single move. Now, Python tries to engulf him by attacking from each side. But at this time, Rakurou's agility and speed save him, and he realizes he cannot defeat this monster easily. Even though he is appointed a barrier at the first level, it's still hard for a beginner to kill and pass on to the next level. This time, he focuses on attacking the python on its side to injure and kill it. But as soon as his sword touches the snake's scales, they break like thin blades, which leaves Rakurou so disappointed since he has started to become attached to his new weapons in SLF. However, in the next moment, he takes out the red daggers to fight again. With the intention of slicing Python into pieces, he jumps on its back, but it sprays a slimy material all over Rakurou's body. When he checks the status window, he realizes it's a lethal poison that reduces the player's stamina every 10 seconds. Now, he discovers that the game is not easy, so he challenges himself to win against the Python. He had won with the help of trash weapons in low-level games, so he believed he could definitely win against this beast now. But he has to do it quickly because his time is limited. After 4 minutes, he will log out due to the poison's effects. Ideally, he wanted a reliable way to land a critical hit, but they can only arrive if he attacks the enemy at its weakest point. It's confirmed that the area covered in scales is tougher, so he decides to attack the skin in between to hurt and kill the python. Therefore, he continuously pierces through the middle section of the scaly skin. Stabbing it several times gives Python pain, but it heals as soon as he lifts the dagger. Time is racing fast, so he decides to make a daring move and attack Python's face by tightly hanging onto its hair. The successful double strokes kill Python, and Rakurou's daggers disappear. He lands on the ground and celebrates his victory. Suddenly, Rakurou notices a piece of the snake's scale and its hair. He knows that it must carry immense value, so after picking them up, Rakurou races towards the town to find a cure for Python's poison. After carefully looking around, he makes sure that there are no other loot items. Rakurou pours all his points into his stamina so that he reaches the town before his stamina runs out. Unfortunately, he is not familiar with the path, but he keeps running. At the gate of the town, Ryuji and Mia discuss bringing a pet as a monster in the game. Ryuji has a secret crush on Mia, so when she asks him for a suggestion about whether she should keep a pet or not, it gives Ryuji immense happiness that finally, after 3 months, Mia has started relying on him so much that she is asking for his suggestion. He is happy that it all became possible due to SLF. Suddenly, they watch Rakurou running towards them, but his weird bird mask terrifies Mei and she thinks it's a monster fast approaching them. Ryuji tells her that before making any move, she must make sure if it is a game player or a monster. If she accidentally kills a player, then according to the game's rules, a skull would be attached next to her name, which is definitely not a good sign. Ryuji tries to guess that if he is a player, then the snake poison is the only reason he runs with such speed towards town. Shouting out loud, he tells the running Rakurou to directly get into the white building to register his respawn points, which will only register when he gets in bed. Rakurou thanks him and passes by at lightning speed. Ryuji discusses that it looks like the player has sold his armor and is in a hurry to claim his agility points. That analysis impresses Mia, and she appreciates him for sounding like an expert in the SLF game. Ryuji gets so happy with her compliment. On the other hand, Rakurou reaches the inn, but its receptionist wastes so much time before guiding him towards his bed. By the time he gets into bed, he logs out, but before that, he successfully registers his respawn points. He does not forget the guy who guided him towards the inn, and he definitely wants to thank him the next time they meet. Now, Rakurou has access to Secondia. Wandering in the streets of the town, he thinks that he needs a few weapons, equipment, and maps. Suddenly, he notices that town residents are staring strangely at him because he is wandering in shorts, so he decides to buy armor first. Rakurou enters the nearby armor shop and wears mud frog skin cloth, which is slash resistant. Afterward, he goes to the weapons shop and buys a goblin hand axe. He also wanted a vorpal chopper, but it was not available, and if he wanted one, he had to go to the dire mesh wastes. The whole area is filled with mud, and if he brings the valuable ore, the blacksmith promises to make an excellent weapon for him. In search of the ore, Rakurou reaches the dire mesh waste, and after digging for a long time, he cannot find anything. Using the goblin's hand tool, he kills a mud frog, and as a loot, he gets the frog's skin. Once again, he starts mining and collects so many pieces of ore. The shopkeeper is so impressed to see so many pieces that Rakurou managed to bring in just 3 hours. Afterward, he hands over the list of his favorite weapons to make from the ore, and the marsh dagger is one of them. Next, he fetches a few maps and returns to the weapon shop. By that time, the blacksmith had made the marsh daggers, which looked fantastic. The shopkeeper tells him he can come with more valuable materials, as they love raising and developing weapons using forging materials. They love the weapons as if they were their own children, so he says that upgrading the weapon is like raising a child. Rakurou is so surprised by the game design that even an ordinary shopkeeper can speak intelligently. He comes out of the shop and now wants to test his brand new weapons on dangerous monsters to improve his level. On the other hand, Rei, in the metallic armor, searches for Rakurou everywhere in Firstia, but she cannot find him. So it's only possible if he entered Secondia without entering the town in Firstia. This is an extraordinary feat for a beginner, but as an avid gamer, Rakurou can surely do that. On the other hand, Rakurou moves towards the jungle to fight nocturnal monsters to increase his HP, but the first monster he comes across is a redcap goblin, and it's a little too powerful. Rakurou defends against its attacks, but suddenly, it calls all of its herd to attack Rakurou in unison. The situation is terrifying, but Rakurou is definitely enjoying the combat. Suddenly, there is a huge blast, and Rakurou now understands that the game initially looked so clean and exciting. But by that time, he has come to know that it's not as simple as it seems. It's taking unexpected dangerous turns, but he thinks that the game looks insane and actually likes it. Suddenly, a huge monster appears as the dust from the blast settles down. By checking its stats, he comes to know that it's a unique monster named Lycagon Night Slayer. It's bigger than anyone can imagine. At the same time, they show the building where the SLF game is programmed. While one computer displays all the stats of the players currently playing the game, no one is sitting in that room. The computer displays the stats that the unique monster has been dispatched but has not shown any progress. Now, Rei has her virtual reality headset on and enters the game. She asks Ryuji if they are sure that the player who defeated Ravenous Python was Sunraku. They are confident about it, and Rei knows it's Rakurou's name in the SLF game. At the same time, Mei becomes terrified by the giant size and powerful armor of Rei and takes out her bow and arrow to attack her. However, Ryuji stops her once again, telling them that it's not a monster in SLF but a highly specialized level player. Rei wants to know where Sunraku went from there. Ryuji tells her that Sunraku entered Secondale after getting poisoned by Ravenous Python. He was wearing a bird mask on his face and was in a hurry. However, they are not sure if Sunraku is still wearing the same pieces of equipment by now, as players change their armor and appearance with each level. Rei thinks he never expected Sunraku to defeat the ravenous python in his first attempt. She has obtained the information she needed from them. Therefore, she thanks both players and creates a box in her hand to give them as a token of gratitude. It's a coordinate teleportation device that helps the player disappear and reappear from a different direction during combat. Rei disappeared immediately after that, but Mei asks Ryuji who they are. Ryuji explains that judging by the symbol on their cape, there are some clans that hunt the unique monster. Then Mei asks again what unique monsters are. Ryuji explains that unique monsters are special in SLF, as their respawn criteria are unknown. There are 7 in total in the whole world, and each one of them is called a Colossus. Since SLF is played by a large community of 30 million people worldwide, many players have tried to kill any of the 7 Colossi by forming groups, but no one has succeeded in their mission. These rare monsters are incredibly powerful, beyond anyone's imagination, and since the start of the game about a year ago, not even a single player out of 30 million SLF players has defeated any unique monster. At the same time, Sunraku confronts a dangerous monster in the night's darkness and reads its stats. It's Lycagon, the Night Slayer, labeled as a unique monster. Sunraku sees its giant size in the moonlight. He remembers that he had a tough time fighting the Redcaps, but they were nothing in front of this Night Slayer. No wonder one hit by the unique monster will tear him apart. The fear of the giant monster is evident on Sunraku's face, but he takes out his Vorpal chopper in hand to fight. He attacks the monster by jumping high to strike its head, but the monster dodges the attack, and Sunraku barely saves himself. In the initial few strikes, he gets drenched in blood, realizing that the monster is a tough target. Fortunately, he spent the last night fighting small monsters in the game, which helped increase his stamina. He has learned the perfect parry, so if a monster physically attacks him, he can dodge it without harming his body. Now, using the Vorpal choppers and their sliding effects, he steps on the stone and moves toward the monster with the speed of a flash. He strikes the monster's head with his swords, but multiple hits still do not hurt the monster. Suddenly, the moon hides behind the clouds and the monster vanishes into the darkness. Sunraku loses sight of it, but the monster attacks from behind, and Sunraku barely saves himself once again before it disappears into thin air. Each time the monster disappears using a teleporting skill, it reappears from a different direction. Hence, Sunraku applies a defensive strategy to protect himself against such a powerful monster. It takes advantage of the darkness and keeps attacking Sunraku. Who knows, with the repetitive attacks, if its skin is tougher than Python's. The impenetrable skin of the monster makes it impossible to harm it from any angle. However, it's indeed an achievement for him that he has defended himself in each attack. Suddenly, as his power level drops, the Vorpal choppers begin falling apart. So, even if he finds a soft spot to hit the monster, it will be useless. Besides, the monster is much larger than his level. But as an avid gamer, he likes to fight as if he were on fire. He wants the intensity of the top-tier game Shangri-La Frontier. Fighting the unique Lycagon monster, he keeps thinking that he has learned to keep his spirits up through trash games. It's not possible to enjoy the game without high spirits. Suddenly, his Vorpal chopper hits the monster on the head, and it begins roaring. A strange thing happens when Sunraku's body turns into pixels, and he falls to the ground. The monster just stands aside and keeps watching as Sunraku thinks of some high-level hero to come and save him at this point. But surviving this level of attack is already a miracle. Besides, he says, watching the monster is too strong for any player because the creators want it to be that way. He knows he has not achieved the required strength yet, but someday he will be unbeatable. He hopes that the Lycagon monster survives until that time. Finally, the monster vanishes into the darkness, and a strange thing is added to Sunraku's stats, Lycagon marks. He wakes up in his bed in a second. His whole body is cursed with the Lycagon marks. Reading the details, he gets annoyed to learn that the curse will not allow him to attach any equipment to his body, especially in the areas where he has the marks. That part of his body won't be affected by magic either. Finally, to remove the curse, he needs the prayers of a saint or to defeat the monster that inflicted the curse upon him. He sits in his room for a moment, but afterward, he comes out onto the street and starts shouting with anger. Then, he reminds himself to remain cool-headed. All those trash games have taught him to stay calm, unbreakable, and patient in awful situations. Then, he stops in a narrow street and checks his stats. Surprisingly, he has become a little stronger and there are many unallocated stats. So he begins distributing the points, but somehow, he spends all his points on vitality. In short, Sunraku gets so annoyed that he messes up everything. Now, all he can rely on is his luck. Devastated, Sunraku hopes for unexpected luck to come to his aid. Suddenly, a cute Vorpal bunny falls onto the street in front of him. It waves its hands in front of Sunraku and begins running on the road at the fastest speed. Sunraku follows it, but it proves to be challenging to catch. Sunraku hopes for an awesome reward if he catches the bunny. Suddenly, it stops at the end of a street in front of a wall. A mysterious door appears, and the bunny disappears into it. Sunraku reads the message that it's an invitation from Rabatuza. This reminds him that he reads something about such a parallel world in the SLF game guide. As a player uncovers the mysteries of the SLF world, side quests are given simultaneously. These are unique quests that reward worthy players with top-class skills. However, the contents and unlock times of these mystery scenarios are unknown. Sunraku wonders if he has unlocked the unique scenario at the beginning of the game. At the same time, many players create clans to unlock and enter such quests. But he remembers that by allocating points just a moment ago, he added a few points to luck. That might be the reason he is here. Now, Sunraku has reached level 28 in the game. The world of Rabatuza is thoroughly well designed and beautiful. He sees bunny sculptures and carrots harvested in the fields everywhere. Suddenly, a bunny named Emil appears and welcomes him. It's the same bunny who guided Sunraku to the door of Rabatuza. He is afraid at first, but Emil looks excited to meet him. Emil shares that everyone is quite impressed with him here. His continued striking of the Lycagon monster without taking a hit has impressed all of them. The bunny keeps saying that the Night Slayer monster can eat anyone, but you are too powerful to be alive. Also, the marks on your body remind him that you are not an enemy or prey of Night Slayer. He considers you as his equal. Sunraku becomes annoyed that the bunny is so fond of talking. It finally tells him that their boss wants to meet him. Sunraku gets nervous, thinking the king wants revenge because he killed many Vorpal bunnies in the beginning. But Emil assures him that their boss does not seek revenge on anyone. The castle looks fantastic, and Sunraku stops on the staircase to admire its beauty. Emil tells him that he is the first human to enter the castle, which pleases Sunraku, realizing that his luck is working. Entering the door, Sunraku becomes nervous as he sees a big hall with many bunnies serving their boss. The boss asks Sunraku if he is the one who fought courageously with Lycagon, the Night Slayer. Usually, all humans easily lose their spirit, but he is happy that Sunraku fought bravely. The boss asks Sunraku to come closer as he has something to discuss. Initially, he introduces himself as the boss of Vorpal bunnies, and his name is Visash. Sunraku is deeply impressed with the boss. Rei enters the game shop and silently looks around. The shop owner knows that she is secretly searching for Rakurou there. She diverts her attention towards herself by telling Rei that if she is looking for Rakurou, then her efforts are futile. Because ever since she handed him over the SLF game at the beginning of the summer break, he has not visited the shop. Then she is surprised to learn that Rei is already a game player. So why did she not find Rakurou at the beginner's level? While the shop owner already shared that he plays the game by the name of Sunraku, Rei gets sad when she reveals that he skipped the beginner's tutorial. The shop owner laughs out loud after hearing this. That's what she expected from a fanatic game player like Rakurou. She also suggests that Rei can always tell him in person what she feels for him. But Rei is too shy to express her feelings. On the other hand, Rakurou's sister leaves the house after telling him. Meanwhile, he reads the gameplay in his room. The instructions say that there are various unique scenarios in the game. In each scenario, players can acquire different skills. Once a person gets their hands on Vorpal weapons at any stage, they may encounter a Vorpal bunny at any stage of the game. The rabbit keeps running in front of the player until they reach the door of their world, Rabatuza. The player then goes on a tour of Rabatuza where they must defeat the unique Lagonian python. After winning, the player achieves the enchant Vorpal spell. He remembers his conversation with the Vorpal bunny's boss, Visash. He appreciates how bravely he fought with the Lycagon. He believes that Sunraku has a Vorpal soul, but he has no idea what that means. The boss looks mighty and smokes a cigarette while asking if Sunraku accepts being in his training. If so, he must reveal it now. Sunraku suddenly realizes that it's a great opportunity to learn skills from the unique personality of a boss like Visash. Without wasting a moment, he gets on his knees and asks the boss if he can be his trainee. The boss gets up from his seat and his steps thump on the floor. That really terrifies Sunraku, and he thinks that he probably chose the wrong response. But boss pats his back and laughs. He appreciates the way Sunraku speaks. In addition to that, he truly likes that he has talent and the will to learn. The boss asks him to refer to him by his nickname, Vash. Then he turns towards Emil and appoints her to be with Sunraku. Emil gets so happy and promises that she will work diligently. Then she immediately wants to take him to the palace. At first, Sunraku hesitates because he is tired. But then he thinks that he must wander around to know more about the monsters and look for unique scenarios. When he hears that Emil will take him to the inn, he agrees because he wants to register his respawn points. Suddenly, Boss remembers that he has not given Vorpal the collar. He throws it towards Sunraku, and it goes down and ties around his neck. Sunraku examines the information about the collar and gets excited to know that it is the Vorpal Soul collar, so he would get 2.5 times his stat points. But but knowing that it would reduce the EXP by half, he wanted to immediately take off the collar. But boss stopped him from doing so. He believes that a weak person needs hard training to grow from weaker to stronger. That's the true essence of a Vorpal soul. Sunraku shouts as he dislikes another restriction. The scene shifts back to Rakurou's room, where he calculates his stat points while simultaneously scrolling down Shangri-La's forum. Surprisingly, the forum discusses the unique scenario, but no one knows about Emil and Visesh, so it's impossible for anyone to know anything about the Vorpal collar. Suddenly, Rakurou remembers that he has to play another trash game he likes, Berserk Online. It's a fighting game, and its popularity has reduced over time to the point that now only 100 players play per day. It's astonishing that this game even exists with such a small fan base. Rakurou enters this game with his game name, Sunraku. Another player, Katsuo, is waiting for him to fight. Before he gets closer to Sunraku, his limbs get bigger, and then in the next few moments, he has many legs and hands chasing Sunraku. Sunraku punches each of his limbs with the highest speed. His quick draw fist style always makes him win fights. The other players watch them fight and enjoy it. Suddenly, a glitch in the trash game breaks one of the limbs of Katsuo. But before it falls down, it punches so hard in Sunraku's face that he loses the game. After falling down, he admits that he has not been playing trash games. That's why he lost the round so easily. Katsuo knows that Sunraku is playing SLF these days. They sit aside, and he shares that SLF has 7 colossi in the game. While he read in the forums that only 4 of them are known so far, all 7 remain undefeated to date. Other Berserk Online players gather around and appreciate how they played. But Sunraku keeps telling Katsuo that he came across only one of the 7 colossi, and it beats him easily. The details sound interesting, and Katsuo shows an interest in the game. He shares that in the coming days, he can be a part of SLF too. Then Katsuo says that he sent an email to his BERP player fellows, saying that Sunraku is now a part of SLF. They were so happy. Besides, a fellow player, Arthur Pencilgan, kills many players in SLF and tells herself that she can't wait for Sunraku. It's surprising that a trash game lover is playing SLF, a god-tier game. She wants to guide him through the game's hardships. On the other hand, Sunraku gets out of Rabbituza through a teleport door. He enters Secondale. After playing the BERP game, he is feeling energetic. Emil wants to go back to show him the palace in Rabbituza, but Sunraku denies it. He wants to go to Thirdema before the crowd reaches there. Since the start of summer break, many new players have entered, and the game is pretty crowded now. Besides, Thirdema is a huge city, so there is a good chance that he will face many new unique seniors there. Emil does not understand what he says, but she shakes her head in obedience. Then he adds the Vorpal bunny to the list with the name of Traveler Bunny Emu. It rides on Sunraku, and the other game players see him with huge amazement. Girls love the cute bunny and want to know where they can get it and why Sunraku's body has weird marks. Suddenly, Sunraku realizes that it was bad that others knew about this new bunny. While he wants to keep it a secret, he immediately puts his hands on Emil's face and runs out of the street. While the curious girls immediately take their picture and post it in the forums, Sunraku stops outside the city walls in the barren lands. Emil doesn't know that he can run with speed. Then Sunraku remembers that his curse includes the line that certain monsters get so terrified of the Lycagon marks on his body. Suddenly, a sheep-like animal runs towards them furiously, but seeing the fiery Lycagon marks, it turns around and runs away. It seems that it terrified the monster. Knowing that, Sunraku begins running after that monster and throws Vorpal choppers at it. That stops the monster, but as he gets closer, Sunraku attacks again with choppers. He knows that he is stronger in the games, but in the real world, he is not so strong. Watching him kill the monster, Emil appreciates Sunraku so much. That hunt gives him more courage. Now he immediately wants to fight the area boss because only after that will they reach Thirdema. They begin running towards the area boss. After covering some distance, they reach the muddy area, and Emil complains that her clothes are getting dirty. While on the way, Emil shares that the area boss here is called Mud Digger. Suddenly, the mud begins rising as if a monster is moving under the surface. It begins getting closer. Before it reaches them, Sunraku asks Emil to jump on his shoulder. Suddenly, a fish-like monster emerges from the mud. The game instructs them that the Mud Digger forces players to be in a walking state, while their feet will remain immersed in the mud. It's the area boss with party level 4. Now Sunraku thinks that it's his worst enemy so far. However, Sunraku cannot move as his feet are almost locked in the swamp. The swamp that has locked his feet is not restrictive for the Mud Digger. It suddenly rises from the mud, and after a few somersaults, it falls again into the swamp and begins moving towards Sunraku at the fastest speed. Watching it come, Emil gets terrified and asks him to do something. Sunraku uses his entire force to fall back, freeing himself from the mud and saving him from the Mud Digger's attack. In the meantime, he takes out his Vorpal choppers and gets ready to attack the monster as it turns around and jumps again to attack Sunraku from above. Now, he uses his skill of perfect parry to stop the attack, a move he learned in a fight with Python. Suddenly, he repels the mud digger and pushes it behind. After standing aside safely, he realizes that the previous rounds of the fight have made him a skillful fighter. But suddenly, a warning appears, indicating that after using the repel cast attack, he cannot move and attack from his place for the next 10 seconds. At the same time, the mud digger swims through the swamp and jumps at him to attack him. However, he cannot think of a way to dodge the attack while time is still on. Suddenly, Emil sitting on his shoulder takes out a book and uses the magic edge on the mud digger. Immediately after uttering the magic words, a lightning bolt attacks the mud digger, acting like a blade on its face, and it falls down. Sunraku is so thankful to Emil for saving him and asks him what he did to save them. Emil shows his magic book. Now, he plans to play the game teaming up with Emil, and once again, he gets ready to attack the mud digger. The swamp takes quite some time to allow him to move faster, but he plunges rapidly to reach the unconscious mud digger. It rises once again and roars before the attack. Sunraku attacks its face with the choppers, and without wasting time, he begins climbing up its skin using the edge climb skill. Suddenly, he jumps up and stands on the edge of the mud digger's mouth. The situation terrifies Emil, and he again uses the spell, agitating the mud digger and making its face shake, almost throwing Sunraku off. But by the time the 10 seconds were complete, he could again use the repel counter skill. So he uses a repel counter, and simultaneously, Emil casts a magic bloom spell. A while later, Sunraku looks around to find it, but it suddenly vanishes. Simultaneously, the earth begins shaking, and the swamp seems more immersive, pulling Sunraku's feet more than ever. He throws Emil in the air, knowing the ground pulls him inside. Suddenly, he vanishes into the swamp, but then it throws him in the air and the mud digger reappears. Now Sunraku sees his low stats and realizes that the epic shake was caused by the mud digger, who wanted to deplete all his HP by throwing him in the air. As he falls, all his HP would end due to damage. After understanding this, Sunraku cannot do anything while falling. He is worried about how he can save himself from this defeat while Emil runs towards him. Also, it feels so real, and he thinks that might be why most reality games are taken off the market. Emil uses his magic scroll power to save him, while Sunraku also has meteor fall energy. Hence, when he falls on the head of the mud digger with full force, it kills him. The only thing to worry about is he has 1 HP, but unexpectedly, he survives and is promoted to level 29. Now, after completing the level, they begin walking towards Thirdrima as they have killed this area boss. Sunraku eats herbs, improving his HP to 17, but he thinks Emil is his best companion. Then he shares his concern with Emil about how he would hide from other players in Thirdrima as they would watch him, upon which Emil shows him the Vorpal Bunny's bracelet. Using that, it changes into a pretty girl. He gets so surprised that that's what he can expect from a god-level game. Suddenly, he gets so immersed in his thoughts that he does not listen when Emil calls him. Then suddenly, he shouts back, asking what kind of game it is. Emil becomes a bunny again and tells him she will become the girl again when they are about to enter the town. Finally, Thirdrima arrives, and Emil is so excited to see the city that she missed for a long time. But it's not new for Sunraku, and he says he has been to such places several times. But then they begin walking towards it, telling Emil to transform into a girl as they are about to enter. The city guards are astonished to see a half-naked man with a pretty girl. Besides, with a bird's mask on his face, he has some awful and strange marks on his body. By that time, Emil is transformed into a girl. She diverts their attention to herself and tells an emotional tale that the man in the bird mask is reincarnated. In the previous life, he and his enemy, Lycagon, had a duel. In that duel, he died, but as he is reborn with the marks of Lycagon's curse, he is now searching for a cure to get rid of these marks. A super warrior is searching for a cure for his body. She shares with a guard that they can think of it as the second season of the Birdman's story. People stand by their side to hear what she says, but players whisper that it's so unusual to see such a half-naked man. As the guards permit them to move inside Thirdrima, a girl named Amelia stops Sunraku and tells them that she knows who he is. Sunraku remembers that 2 players in the previous city, Secondale, watched him with Emil and his bunny face. They immediately took Sunraku's picture, fleeing with the bunny, and put it on online game forums to ask fellow players about the bunny. Somewhere in the game, Amelia reads her post and gets so jealous that someone has a cute companion, not a dog or cat. She gets so eager that she begins walking towards Secondale, expecting Sunraku to meet her there. On the other hand, other players commented that the girls should not have taken the picture without permission. Besides, other players are surprised to see the strange marks on Sunraku's body. Soon after, the players know that the marks result from his fight with Lycagon, the Night Slayer. Now, the discussion takes another turn. That player wants to know how he came across such a big monster as a beginner and the reason for the curse. The clan of the player Killer Gang Boys reads all the comments, and it is now a threat to his life that he can get killed. While girls around the world post that they want to see him, another achievement clan reads the comments and gets so jealous that, as a beginner, he is getting all the spotlight. In short, the gossip gets viral among the SLF community about a naked bird guy with Lycagon marks on his body. Animalia grabs Sunraku's hand and wants him to tell her where his bunny is and how he trained him to talk. He is in conflict whether to tell her anything or keep the bunny's secret to himself when a player attacks. It's a girl. She calls him a revolutionary knight, and as she removes her mask from her face, Sunraku challenges her to fight and takes out his swords. She introduces herself as Arthur Pensilgan. He is so surprised to see that she is a level 99 player. He reacts to the idea of fighting with her. Emil gets scared of her and tries to hide behind Sunraku. At the same time, they introduce Arthur Pensilgan as a pencil-bearing knight in a trash game named Unite Rounds. In that game, players loot a shop and come out. However, outside the shop, Sunraku collects all the loot items from the players. That trash game was built on the concept that the player would act as a knight and prevent the world from being invaded by monsters. But its design has a significantly low drop rate. Even rocks were not suitable for throwing. The players get annoyed, and after trying for the initial rounds, simple medicinal herb collection took 12 hours. So at a higher level, they had to make more efforts to collect such items. They preferred another way, which was stealing from other players who had already collected the needed items. Alternatively, they stole the items from the store. In such a situation, a player named Pencil Knight emerged. She took advantage of the outrage and violence in the gameplay. She used that anger to take control of the kingdom. That was how the Pencil Kingdom was born. One day, Sunraku and his friend Katsuo invaded the Pencil Knight's castle and killed all the guards outside. They collected all the loot items from the pockets of the dead players. Ignoring the basic purpose of the game to kill the monsters, they aimed to kill the Pencil Knight, who is now ruling the entire kingdom. In that game, Pencil Knight was not nearly as powerful as the final boss in the actual game design. But with her smart strategy, she used organized resistance through her agents. That way, she created a suitable environment for her opponents to maintain their interest in the game, preventing them from just giving up. Finally, Katsuo and Sunraku enter the Pencil Knight's chamber. She is so surprised that Sunraku used the rebel groups to invade her territory. Now that all the others are dead, he offers a one-on-one fight with Sunraku to decide who wins. Sunraku shares with Emil that the fight was so long, and in the end, no one won. They started the fight when each one of them was about to die. Suddenly, Arthur Pensilgan attacks Sunraku. She shares that she came all the way from 50s to the gate of Thirtima to PK him. PK means player kill. She tells Sunraku that he can pity his fate as he will not survive anymore. She suddenly throws 3 knives, which he stops with his own knives. These knives were pretty expensive, and Arthur Pensilgan taunts him that he can't think of any such expensive items on his list. After killing the mud digger, one can only reach a level of around 30, which is too low. Suddenly, Zookeeper Animalia remembers that it is not the same Pensilgan who belongs to a PK or player killer group. Not only that, she is only second in command to the lead player of the clan, which is Ashura Kai. In the meantime, Sunraku reminds her that she chose the name Dystopia in the previous game. They laugh at the trash game's meet-up memories. But suddenly, Pensilgan stops him and tells him that she will not talk about the last game in SLF. She calls him a bird brain, and they again begin striking swords furiously. Animalia gets surprised watching both of them fight so furiously. While Emil can't control her state of metamorphosis, her head starts buzzing. On the other hand, Pensilgan tells Sunraku the reason why she came after him. The PK clan head, Ashura Kai, wants him to publish the unique scenario on the game forum. If he does not agree, she will carry his body on her back until he agrees. Sunraku gets angry that she is threatening him. He once again attacks her with the knives, but she efficiently stops the attack. Sunraku immediately wants to enter the gate of the city. He can now guess that Pensilgan does not want him to get inside the gate, and she wants to attack him there. The point is to avoid the crowds in the city. On the other hand, Emil's tail comes out, and she tries to hide it under her dress but cannot do so. While Animalia turns towards Emil to ask her about Sunraku and his marks on the body, she gets surprised to see the tail on her back. She touches her to see what that is, and suddenly Emil turns back into a bunny. Animalia gets so happy to see the bunny she was looking for. She takes it in her hand and gets so happy, but that distracts Sunraku. He wants to get into the gate of Thirtima, where Emil will open the telepathy gate of Rabatuza, and they will vanish into that scenario, and no one will be able to find them. He asks Emil to get on his back and begins running towards the gate of Thirtima. Animalia shouts that she wants the screenshot, but Sunraku promises that if he survives, he will surely give a picture. Suddenly, Animalia realizes that Pensilgan is after the cure creature Emil. She warns Pensilgan to stay away. Sunraku takes advantage of the time and keeps running, while suddenly 4 members of Pensilgan's PK gang appear in front of the city gate. They discuss that they hate killing low-level players as it reduces their karma points. For the same reason, their bosses avoid killing such players and send them instead. On the other hand, Animalia challenges Pencilgun, saying that she cannot kill Emil. That situation is interesting for Pencilgun, as she says that she would love to kill a zookeeper. On the other hand, 4 P-Curs attacked Sunraku at the same time. While Animalia uses her magic to throw all the wild curses at Pencilgun, the intense streams of curses reach Pencilgun, which can usually kill a player. But she absorbs all the curses, and at the same moment, she sends them back to Animalia. That faints her, and she falls down. But she gets so surprised at how Pencilgun reflected all the curses. She takes out a strange karmic doll from her pocket and shows it to Animalia. She uses this doll to counter all the curses. She tells Animalia that she will now die of all her curses. On the other hand, Sunraku effectively defends himself from the attacker. While he plans a strategy to kill a foolish PK gang member, suddenly, Sunraku looks above, and a player in the heavy metal suit appears. With one attack, that fighter kills 2 PK members. Sunraku gets annoyed that he has to deal with another problem here. But he does not know that the player concealing its face behind the metal mask is actually Rei, who joined SLF to play it alongside Sunraku. She finally finds Sunraku and gets so happy. In real life outside the game, she gets so disappointed that she cannot find Sunraku. So she goes to the game shop, where Mana tells her that Rakurou always plays VR games with the player named Sunraku. She encourages her so much that if she keeps playing SLF, she will reach him one day. And that day, Mei can tell him how much she loves him. Mei gets run over when Mana asks her to boldly reveal her love for Sunraku. Mei reaches home and watches the bucket full of trash games. She knows that she cannot play these trash games, so there is no chance of getting closer to him in those games. But she wears her VR headset, as there is a fair chance that she can get closer to him in SLF. Mei enters the SLF and opens her eyes in an inn. She reads the messages in the game forum, where she receives a message from her sister requesting that she needs to pause her private player hunt and find a player for her. While getting out to find the player, Mei thinks of the player she has to find. Mei plays the game with the name Siger0. She remembers that the player in question has a Vorpal bunny with him and was last seen near Secondale. After a while, Siger0 keeps reading the forum, where the player discusses that they are interested in meeting and keeping the bunny, while she keeps running with very high speed after reading that a clan of PK from Ashurakai has already been searching for that player. Siger0 knows that all the signs tell her that it can be Sunraku, and she can't miss him there. Besides, if she saves him from P-Curs, then she will get a chance to talk and get closer to Sunraku. Then, maybe one day, they can get closer in real life too. She suddenly attacks the P-Cur gang. On the other hand, Pencilgun thinks that even with his low stats, Sunraku is hard to defeat. It's all because of the sets of skills he developed in all these years fighting trash games. Suddenly, she gets so happy that Siger0 is also here. She is so thankful that, because of Sunraku, she met Animalia and Siger. In her excitement, she begins running towards Siger while Animalia stops her. She tells her that she hit her with reflecting all 5 curses using a powerful item. But one Karma Straw doll can only reflect a maximum of 5 curses. Then she takes out a staff from her pocket and prepares for the final attack. Rakurou walks into the school with his friends. While Rei silently walks past, she overhears what he is talking about with his friends. As always, he discusses a trash game. She is surprised that Rakurou has taken part in SLF and also plays many trash games alongside. He always keeps smiling and never looks tired. A friend of his stops by to ask if he can scout another trash game. Rei practices the fights in the school and constantly thinks about what she loves about him. She remembers that she has been looking for him for a long time now. She followed him into the game shop. Rei secretly looked at him, hiding behind a corner with so much concentration. Suddenly, someone touches her from behind. Rei gets shocked at the sudden interruption. It was the shopkeeper who caught her stalking Rakurou. She remembers that countless times she tried to talk to Rakurou in the school, but he was always busy talking with his friends and discussing interesting gameplays. She wishes that one day she might be able to talk to him. It does not matter if she gets the chance to talk to him in the game, but it would be huge for her. The scene shifts when Sunraku fights with Pencilgun's teammates, who want to PK him. Suddenly, Rei protects him in the form of Siger0 in iron armor. Sunraku does not understand why Siger0 is protecting him. The only thing that he could think of now is that Siger0 must want to know about the secret scenario like all the others. Sunraku thinks to himself that they would never permit him entry to Thirdema while all of them are present. He should quickly think of a way. Suddenly, Animalia regains some courage and tells Pencilgun that she will now inflict a curse that Pencilgun won't be able to survive. That special curse needs to have spray mastery and a single-digit stat. She is both now, but the downside is that she won't be able to survive either. Pensilgan has already used her karmic straw doll, so she has no defensive strategy against Animalia. With the instant death debuff, she kills Pensilgan. That surprised her teammates, and now is the only time when everyone else's attention is not on Sunraku. He puts his foot on Seiger and jumps higher to run towards Idoman. But during that, he says thanks to her and keeps running. While watching Sunraku slip out of their hands, the gang members tell each other to follow him. While Sunraku thinks that he will never forget Seiger Zero, as it was the one who saved his life. On the other hand, Seiger, who is actually Rei, cannot get over the feeling that Sunraku talked to her for the first time. Suddenly, a gang member attacks her. She gets so angry that they were the reason she could not talk to Sunraku. She kills them one by one. On the other hand, Sunraku gets into Rabbituza through the secret door that Emil created by magic. Emil begins drinking the magic potion as her magic powers are reduced during her transformation phase. Then, Sunraku opens the forum where Pensilgan writes that she died in SLF due to her own error. But now she wants to talk to Katsuo and Sunraku in another game named United Rounds. She is surprised that the attack master Seiger Zero came to save him. She asks him, do they know each other? Sunraku gets suspicious of Pensilgan's behavior. Why does she want to talk to him outside SLF? Katsuo asks him not to back out. However, Sunraku acknowledges that he is interested in the invitation and wants to hear what Pensilgan has to say. He decides that he will go meet her later, but now he wants to explore the unique scenario. Emil gets so excited that Sunraku finally says yes to a tour. They walk into the corridor when Sunraku tells Emil that the boss wants him to get the training. So Emil takes him to the best arena in Rabbituza, named Vorpal Coliseum. Emil reminds him that this training will make him an expert against monsters, but the only condition is that he has to fight against the monsters using only the Vorpal weapons. Sunraku gets excited as he wants to get the best training to be better against Pensilgan. Emil pulls the chain to free the monsters. In the meantime, Sunraku takes out his Vorpal choppers and decides that he will slowly take down one monster after another. But he gets surprised to see that there are a bunch of packhounds that come out in groups of 5 or more. They do not wait a little and attack Sunraku at once. Within the next moment, they defeat him. On the other hand, Rei comes out of the game and removes her VR headset. She is so happy that Sunraku talked to her. She remembers how he jumped over her head and said sorry, so she promises herself that next time they meet, she will offer him to be her friend. Then she imagines that Sunraku and she will become great friends, and he will ask her to go to school with him each day. She cannot contain her excitement. Then she gets sad that, once again, she lost Sunraku in Idoman. On the other hand, after dying from fighting with hounds, Sunraku gets up again to try once more. Luckily, the lives lost in the arena do not count towards the game, so it's his 7th try. Suddenly, he realizes that the hounds attack him in an organized way. He identifies the commander, who is howling and directing an attack. With the spiral edge attack, he attacks the commander hound, but then the others come at him. He pushes others one after another and does not lose focus on the commander. Suddenly, he throws his Vorpal chopper at the hound and repeatedly attacks as he starts moving slowly. It kills the commander hound. Emil appreciates his fighting style. Without losing another moment, he follows other hounds and kills them one after another. Emil appreciates him for winning the round. Now he knows that he will always have to make a strategy before attacking the opponent in any combat. Before the start of the next round, he hopes that the next round he fights with a single person instead of a herd. Emil confirms that the next one is a single monster, but Sunraku gets surprised to see the monster, which has a bear in the center with a lot of tentacles around its body. Each parasite's tentacle attacks from a different position. Soon, he defeats the parasite tentacles. Then he fights with the goblin and Dinabor. In the next round, he defeats the toxic eagle, larva, panther, and tiger. Then he encounters a strange opponent in the form of a robot. It stands at a distance and throws rays. Its beta unit golem, Sunraku protects himself from the rays by getting aside. Finally, he defeats it by using the effective strategy of moving fast when it attacks. It was his 9th opponent, and Sunraku thinks that he will gain a higher level. But to his dismay, he is only promoted to level 31. In the fight with the monster, he lost half of his HP. Now his body is shaky, and Emil suggests that he take some rest. Suddenly, Boss Vash arrives there and appreciates that he has already beaten the 9 monsters. The boss says that it's the perfect timing. Sunraku does not understand what he is talking about. He throws the monster that he caught with his own hand and twirls its hands. To his surprise, Sunraku sees that it's actually not a monster. It was a human that he used to hear the stories about. The ancient human that fused its body with a tree. Vash shares that, in his opinion, Sunraku does not look to be in a perfect position to beat a strong monster. Besides, the monster has merged with a tree for a longer life and is hard to defeat, so the boss does not set the condition for him to win. He tells Sunraku that he will accept his win if he survives the 5 minutes of fighting with this monster. Then he starts the timer. Sunraku looks at the opponent and thinks that he can survive if he keeps moving. That way, he will keep the monster busy. But as the timer begins, the monster, number 10, does not move from his position. Instead, he telepaths the stem from the ground where Sunraku stands. He did not understand the location of the first attack. But then all the ground gets filled with emerging stems. The stem moves towards Sunraku to entangle and kill him. But he keeps moving on their top while using his chopper to cut the stem. The boss watches the fight and appreciates him. He likes the fighting spirit of Sunraku. While Sunraku thinks that each moment of the fight is so heavy, it would be a great achievement if he could survive 5 minutes. But he does not know that he is the first one in the SLF to fight against this monster. At the same time, Sunraku attacks the woodmage by quickly moving towards it. But surprisingly, the choppers reach their bodies, but he cannot pierce it. That declares one thing: he won't be able to physically harm the woodmage. At the same time, woodmage throws numerous chains at him. Emil is keeping track of time. The timer shows that 1 minute of survival is complete. Now Sunraku has to survive for 4 more minutes. Boss wants to test his actual fighter's vorpal soul. On the other hand, woodmage estimates that Sunraku is an actual beast who would not lose so easily. Woodmage uses the roots like a spear. Each time, they arise from a different direction. While the chains coming from its body hit so hard on touch, Sunraku keeps running fast. As for now, he can only deduce that the only way to survive is to keep dodging the attacks. But in spite of all the physical powers Woodmage has, he also uses a stick to inflict mixed magical powers on Sunraku. He slips through the attacks, but after each attack, the magic gets denser and his attacks get harder. The number of chains and magic attacks is covering the most area. Sunraku says that if the attack frequency keeps increasing, it will be hard to survive 5 minutes. So far, he has come against a deadly enemy, which was Lycagon. Sunraku begins getting tired after some time. It's like all his powers are draining, and he needs some carb energy. His brain powers are also reducing, and he wants to give up now. But then Sunraku assails himself for showing no resilience and trying to give up in the early minutes. He remembers those times when he was fighting against the Mud Digger. It was Emil who helped him win that fight, or he would have lost that fight too easily. He is so embarrassed that he wants to lose so easily. Sunraku blames the trash games, saying that playing so many pointless trash games has weakened his mind. Suddenly, he gets on a root of Woodmage and begins running on it to get to Woodmage. Vash watches his strategy and understands that Sunraku now wants to get closer to Woodmage by breaking the attacks. Only that way will he reach closer to the monster. Only 2 minutes remain, and Vash can't see any significant strategy in Sunraku's attacks. Suddenly, Sunraku kicks the hand of Woodmage, who is holding the stick. With the help of the stick, it throws the magic attacks at him. The stick falls far away. To get the stick back, Woodmage throws its root that will catch it. But at the same time, Sunraku throws the chopper and begins running towards the stick. Vash shouts at Sunraku to show him a good game trick. At the same time, Woodmage gets so angry that Sunraku is running with its stick. Its physical attack frequency increases with each second. But Sunraku keeps running, while Emil encourages him to keep dodging as there is only 1 minute left. Suddenly, Woodmage makes a wall in front of Sunraku to stop him and grabs his feet through the chains. Before that, Lycagon's marks were preventing Woodmage from wrapping its roots around Sunraku. But now, after getting many punches, it can wrap around the roots. At the same time, there are only 12 seconds remaining to complete 5 minutes when Sunraku throws Woodmage's stick in the air. After catching the falling stick, Sunraku keeps Woodmage busy by saying that he could have won the fight using only physical attacks. The 5 minutes end, but even then, Woodmage keeps throwing fire magic towards Sunraku. He begins running, saying that he has already survived the due time. At the same time, Boss Vash comes into the arena and stops Woodmage. Then he appreciates Sunraku for the glorious win. He announces that Sunraku will get the reward. But then he shares the news that Sunraku will be awarded the title of Honorary Rabbituzen. Vash suddenly takes away the special Rabbituza collar. Then the game announces that the special scenario Rabbituza is cleared now. Vash begins walking away from the arena with Emil and other bunnies, while Sunraku keeps stopping. Then Sunraku is given the option that he wants to play the Vorpal Epic scenario. He gets so angry that he has not gotten any actual reward from the unique scenario. Rakurou removes the VR headset and watches the time. It's already too late at night. Sunraku once again begins playing the game and tells Emil that the Vorpal Epic scenario requires a player to be at level 80, while he is only at level 31. He wants to know more about the epic Rabbituza story. Sunraku suggests that in the game forums, a whole group is dedicated to finding such stories. But he is more interested in getting into the main game. He wants to hold the unique scenario for now and tells Emil that he is getting ready to try and enter the new area. But the problem is that the Peekers group is after him. Even if he tries to hide his identity, they will find him through the Lycagon marks. Emil thinks of an idea and takes him to a place where his brother lives. He is Pete's, and he works in Rabatuza and other areas too. He sells goods and clothes. So Emil requests that he give Sunraku a special dress that will hide his face and Lycagon marks. When Pete calls him Birdman, he takes off his mask to show that he has a real human face beneath it. Emil gets so surprised, as she also thinks that the bird mask is a part of Sunraku's identity, and he will never take it off. Then he asks Pete to give them the special fabric. He begins searching and gives the cloth a special price tag. After wearing those clothes, Sunraku goes straight to the merchant shop. He asks her to give him the map of Thirdama. That way, it will be easier for them to get through the area. The white shroud covers Sunraku from head to toe. Only his eyes are uncovered. On the other hand, Emil has also turned into a girl to get through the city of Thirdama. She advises him to keep calm, as the dress is only a help in getting them through the city safely. Emil keeps drinking the magic potion to maintain his human form, and Sunraku has also bought the recovery items. Now they watch the map to see how they will get through the prismatic forest grotto. The forest is full of mazes where a number of types of flowers grow in each color. After crossing that, they will pass through a collection of water in a small area. The water is collected in a hole, which was the site of a volcano. The next path is the Iron Ruin of Divinity. That area is named after its specialty, which is that it contains many iron boards along the way. All the paths are difficult, and Sunraku asks Emil what he should do, but then he comes up with the decision to go through the prismatic forest first. He tells Emil that he will especially try to bypass the Iron Ruins of Divinity. As is evident from its name, it must contain some advanced weapons. Suddenly, Sunraku sees that someone is secretly watching him from the corner of the street. It's Seiger Zero. Sunraku gets so terrified that Seiger Zero is following him. Now, Ashurikai's PK team members gather on a ship. The current Ashurikai, named Orsalot, scolds them for facing the worst defeat. However, his fighters tell him that the attack master came to defeat them. Orsalot reminds them that the unique scenario is under discussion among all the players in the game. So how can they exclude the possibility that attack masters and high-level players can come? At the same time, Pencilgan interrupts and asks Orsalot why he doesn't join such fights. But he rudely replies that he is not interested in such ordinary battles. They read on the forum that the rabbit accompanying the man with a bird mask has a deep connection to a unique scenario. Orsalot underestimates Sunraku and tells his fighters that he is just a beginner. If they want to obtain information about this unique scenario, they just have to threaten Sunraku. However, Pencilgan once again interrupts and reminds Orsalot that rabbits are the key to this unique scenario, so they must focus on capturing one. Orsalot gets so irritated that he cannot keep quiet. He harshly states his decision that they cannot harm anybody who comes from the unique scenario. He says that they only want to increase their power and save their energy. Getting into useless fights will only make them lose valuable items. Hearing them talk like cowards, Pencilgan gets so bored that she gets up to leave. Orsalot tells her that she can't leave the room until he permits it, but she excuses herself, saying that she has things to do. That angers Orsalot so much. She walks and thinks that Ashurikai's hate policy has changed ever since the game was updated. With its update patch, anyone who tries to PK another player puts their own position at risk. It's probably the reason they have changed. They want to keep their position safe in the game. She is so disappointed in herself that she is risking her life for such an NPC. She looks so sad, as Pencilgan wants to risk everything in the game. She will do anything to bury the unique monster Toonguard, saying that she makes a promise in her heart to Set. On the other hand, Sunraku tells Emil that he has decided to go to Grotto first, which is a unique forest. Sunraku keeps explaining his reasons while Emil notices someone looking at them secretly. She remembers where she saw that person before. Sunraku looks in that direction and gets terrified to see Seiger Zero looking at him. He thinks that Seiger Zero wants to take revenge because he put his feet over his body to jump towards Thirdama faster. He tells Emil to run faster while Seiger cannot understand what happened. On the other hand, Ashurikai's fighters hear the noise of someone running in white clothes. They focus on that player and realize that it's Sunraku. They get so angry and begin running behind him. At the same time, Sunraku tells Emil to run towards the next area. On the other hand, Ashurikai's gang assumes that Sunraku is advancing towards the Iron Ruins. Therefore, to overpower him with full force, they inform the other members of the gang, who immediately get ready to follow him. Watching Sunraku run towards the Iron Ruins, Emil asks him if he changed his plan. But Sunraku shares that he has taken this way to dodge the players following him. After some time, he will take another route to begin moving towards the unique forest. Therefore, other players following him will wait for him at the Gate of Iron Ruins and won't find them. Ashurikai's members lose sight of Emil and Sunraku. On his way, running towards the Gate of the Iron Ruins, Sunraku shares his strategy that he learned from Pencilgan. One must prepare a truth to deceive others that must look like a lie and a lie that looks like a truth. When they reach the gate, they look behind and find Seiger Zero in front of them. They know that he is stronger than anyone. Suddenly, Seiger Zero lifts his finger and sends a friend request. In the game of SLF, making friends means that someone who offers to become a friend wants to establish a good bond with you. Thinking about that, Sunraku begins questioning the intentions of Seiger Zero behind it. He thinks that Seiger also wants information about the unique scenario, like others. But at the same time, he is strong enough to bring him down with a single punch. At last, Sunraku comes to the conclusion that whatever his intention is, he would like to add Seiger Zero to his friends list. On the other hand, Seiger Zero changes her position nervously, waiting for Sunraku's reply. Finally, Sunraku accepts the friend request, and Seiger Zero is added to his friends list. That gives Rei immense joy, hiding behind the attire of Seiger Zero. She finally made him her friend. She remembers that when she first entered Thirtima, she opted to cross the grotto forest first. And her guess was right, Sunraku would also meet her there. She immediately offers Sunraku her help in crossing the forest. But Sunraku does not understand her intentions and refuses, saying that he would like to cross the level on his own. Seiger Zero excuses them for ruining their adventure, and Sunraku apologizes for stepping on her shoulder while he was running towards Thirtima. She happily accepts the apology and tells him that she is available at any time if he needs any help. Sunraku and Emil turn towards the gate, and he cannot understand what the intention of Seiger Zero is. Moving towards the gate, he reveals his concern about why Seiger Zero did not fight when she could, because she is way more powerful than him. But Emil reminds him that he is also strong as he contains the Vorpal Soul. Sunraku finally thinks of leaving that suspicion behind and moving on. On the other hand, Rei watches Emil and thinks that she has no name tag. So what kind of player is she? She forgets about her and shudders with immense joy that she has finally become friends with Sunraku. On the other hand, Ashurikai's players follow Sunraku to the gate of Grotto Forest, but when they see Seiger Zero standing in front of them, they do not come forward because she is known as an attack master. They can't risk their lives fighting with her. They run away immediately, and Rei laughs watching them run away. At the same time, Sunraku and Emil enter the tunnel leading to the prismatic Grotto Forest. As they reach there, the first thing Sunraku does is remove the shroud covering him from head to toe. They are surprised to discover that the photoluminescent moss here has illuminated all the walls. As the tunnel ends, they enter the prismatic forest. It is as pretty as its name. The whole forest is full of pretty bugs and butterflies. While its trees are luminescent like a prism, they see the storage papillon, empire worker bee, mimic mantis, and a big quad beetle sitting aside. Sunraku gets so excited to see the new area, and he runs behind the storage papillon. At first, he used the dagger and could not catch it, but then he kills one of them and collects its liquid. The item description tells him that the liquid is fun to drink and throw. After moving ahead, they see a mantis. Sunraku uses his throwing knife to collect its part. In this way, he collects many items by killing creatures. Then, at last, he comes across a quad beetle surrounded by the Empire Queen Bee and many other bees. Sunraku likes to watch their fight. Bees attack the quad beetle on the order of the Empire Queen Bee. Sunraku uses mushrooms to comment on their combat. After repeated attacks, the quad beetle's outer cover gets damaged. Then it gets up and kills the Empire Queen Bee. After her death, the other bees run away. Sunraku wanted to collect the looted items from that location, but Quad Bee watches them and begins running after them. Sunraku throws Papillon's liquid towards a flower. It seems that the quad beetle is after that liquid and takes the bait. Sunraku uses that moment and attacks at the point where bees have already damaged the quad beetle's cover. After furious repeated attacks, the quad beetle dies. With its death, Sunraku collects many collectibles, including shells, mandibles, horns, and elytron. Emil appreciates his victory, and they begin moving ahead in the area to find and kill the area boss. Emil shares that he should not have hit the quad beetle, where he was already damaged by bees. But Sunraku sees no harm in this. After walking ahead, they see spider webs at many sites. Sunraku remembers that the area boss here is called the Clown Spider. They assume that they have probably reached him. Sunraku is so determined to kill it, and he looks at the cave where he lives, and suddenly he begins running inside, where he sees the Clown Spider. Now, a few players enter the prismatic Grotto Forest. They were victorious at the previous level, hence, they assume that it will be easy to beat the area boss in the forest and cross this level. The girl seems so annoyed by the bugs that are whirling around. Suddenly, a guy named Soma sees a sign saying that entry is not allowed. But even then, Soma goes inside the cave, but his foot gets stuck to a web, and he cannot lift it up. Suddenly, he sees a red face in the distinct darkness and screams, knowing that this is the area boss. Sunraku moves forward and asks Emil if she has any information about who the area boss is. She shares that a clown spider is known as an area boss. Suddenly, Sunraku sees the no entry sign. They hear some noise from the inside area. Emil assumes that some other players are already in combat with the clown spider. Suddenly, a player falls in front of them, and with that, the barrier vanishes, stopping the other players from entering the area boss's territory. The players seem so angry with the clown spider and rise again to attack once more. At the same time, a heavy rock falls on the head of the player and he vanishes. Sunraku asks and tells Emil that they will move into the territory now. Emil is sad to see the player die, but Sunraku relaxes her by telling her that the player was not killed. Instead, he will respawn in Thirdima. Once inside, he watches the players wrapped in the spider web. Sunraku wants to kill the clown spider himself, and he does not want Emil to be with him. Thus, he asks her to stay there and wait until he kills the spider alone. Emil watches him jump on the strong spider web to quickly cross the area and reach the spider. He looks at his learned skills while running. Because of the sensitivity of the spider web, he must have a skill that will help him leap through the web. So he chooses the one boat leap skill that helps him jump over longer distances in one leap. He is now leaping through the height of the cave that leads to the area boss. Emil shouts at him to stay cautious. At first, the spider web is sticky, helping Sunraku maintain his balance through the tricky heights. But as he moves upward, the stickiness of the web ends, and he finds it tricky to maintain his balance. Sunraku does not hesitate and chooses a different skill named Excel Level 6. Immediately after that, he efficiently begins jumping each strand of spider web like he is running on the ground. As he jumps closer to the area boss, many rocks fall around him. Emil appreciates his speed and the way he dodges each obstacle. Finally, Sunraku reaches the clown spider and challenges him, saying that the time for sitting back and throwing stuff is over. Sunraku begins using his Vorpal choppers. The spider attacks with one leg, but Sunraku flinches aside. At the same time, he uses his loop slash skill and chops off one of its legs. That makes the spider fall from its place. Sunraku expects serious damage to its body from the fall, but suddenly, to save itself, it shoots a web at a wall. Sunraku throws the chopper and deflects the web. As the spider falls down, it once again tries to rise and fight. While Sunraku thinks of another idea to beat it right there, the spider web has many items and rocks entangled in it. Emil sees that as the clown spider tries to walk again, many rocks and logs fall on it. She looks upward and gets surprised to see Sunraku chopping the strands of spider web. That releases the items entrapped. That way, Sunraku causes more injuries to the spider. Emil jumps up with joy that Sunraku is so smart to use the brilliant strategy. She hopes that they will get out of this area unharmed. But Sunraku sees that he has not damaged the spider enough. So he comes down and looks right at the body of the spider. When he sees the red marks over the spider's body, he remembers the fight with Lycagon and how he is defeated by Lycagon so badly. That angers Sunraku and makes him think that if he can't defeat an area boss, then he would never be able to defeat Lycagon. Then he repeatedly attacks the clown spider until it vanishes, and the game announces that he has defeated the clown spider. Emil congratulates him on the win, while Sunraku is happy that, for the first time, he has no injuries from the fight. At the same time, he receives an email from Arthur Pensilgan. She has reminded him once again that she wants to meet him. On the other hand, a player named Oikatsu clears the level where they have to cross the mud digger. She knows about Sunraku's achievements but does not think that killing the area boss is quite a big thing. She expects something more challenging. On the other hand, in real life, Rei goes to the game shop. While the shop owner, Mana, asks about Sunraku, Rei tells her that she overcame all her hesitations and sent a friend request to Sunraku, and he accepted it. The shop owner is very happy for her. Rei thanks Mana for encouraging her. She keeps telling her how Sunraku is amazing and how he skipped the first town. He also has a Vorpal bunny companion, as everyone in the game knows that those creatures couldn't be tamed. The shop owner smiles as she knows Sunraku has achieved many skills by playing trash games. At the same time, they hear someone enter the shop, but it's not Sunraku. The shopkeeper shares that Sunraku has not arrived there for many days. She thinks that he has been playing SLF the whole time and may be the first to defeat a unique monster. Rei thinks of him as she walks home. Suddenly, she sees Sunraku sitting in a convenience store and reading a book. It's an SLF journal with the news that the game is getting a major summer update, introducing Severed Sea, Frontier Fleet, new land, and new jobs. He already heard about it from Pensilgan. He meets with Pensilgan in another game and joins Katsuo on Pensilgan's demand. She laughs as they attempted to destroy her castle last time. But Katsuo blames Sunraku, saying that it was him who wanted to dethrone a crowned queen, Pensilgan. However, Sunraku begins an argument to deny that. Pensilgan watches as both friends are busy talking. She interrupts and says that they don't have much time. She wants to kill the unique monster named Toonguard. Katsuo and Sunraku get terrified to hear that, as Sunraku already fought one of the unique monsters, Lycagon. He knows that it will be almost impossible to take the Toonguard down. They don't understand why she wants them to join. She shares that one reason is that the monster gets more power when he kills more people. while she cannot share the true details until they tell her if they are with her. She already tried it with the Shurikai's men but failed. Now she wants them to be with her to kill Toonguard the night before the major summer update. When Katsuo thinks that is what he should say, Pensilgan shares that any level player can fight a unique monster. All they need are unique skills, which they have from playing trash games. Sunraku asks Pensilgan to tell them the whole story as they do not believe her half-truth. Only after that will they make their decision. Pensilgan agrees. On the other hand, as Sunraku gets out of the convenience store, Rei suddenly stops him. He is sure they were in the same class last year but could not remember who she was. He thinks of many names but then gives up. Finally, he comes up with the right name. She asks him what he is doing, to which Sunraku replies he is shopping. Rei tells him that Mana told her he has started playing SLF, and Sunraku confirms it. She says she has also been playing SLF and asks him to play with her. But before he could answer her, an email popped into his phone. It's from Pensilgan. She wants him to return immediately. As a joke, she writes that Sunraku needs an ambulance. He gets annoyed that Pensilgan does not stop emailing, so he does not reply to what Rei said and makes excuses to go home. He seems to be in a great hurry and she sees him running towards home. As he goes, Rei gets so happy that she talks to him. She assumes that Sunraku would not be out for a while as he had a lot of drinks in his shopping bag. Then she hurries back as she has to go to a training class. As Sunraku returns, he drinks a can of juice and puts on his VR headset to enter SLF. He wonders what Rei's name would be in the game. As he enters the game, Emil welcomes him. She asks about his next plan. Sunraku shares that in 2 weeks he has planned to defeat Toonguard. He is going to another party, so he will leave Emil behind. Emil gets so terrified to hear that they are planning to fight Toonguard. She immediately opens the door to go to Rabbituza as she wants to tell her boss, who is her father too. Sunraku could not understand Emil's overwhelming reaction and thinks that he is late to meet Pensilgan. He then remembers their meeting with Pensilgan in Unite rounds as she tells him to keep Emil away from this fight because she is an NPC. If she gets eliminated, she will never return again. The scene shifts when Sunraku sits in front of boss Rabbituza. Emil has already told him that Sunraku and his 2 friends are going to fight Toonguard. But boss warns him straight away that his opponent has lived longer than he had to and is already too strong for them. But Sunraku keeps thinking about the meaning of this warning. Whatever the boss warns him about does not bother him even a little, because he is already too excited for the upcoming fight before the summer update. He quietly thinks that instead of arguing with boss, he must act calm. That is the only way he will be able to get more information about Toonguard. He remembers how in the trash games, he defeated Phalia. In the same way, he wants to manipulate boss in his favor. Sunraku thinks that he will use the word Vorpal Soul in his conversation. That will evoke the fighter's emotions in boss. The boss tells him that he is still an ordinary game player with little strength. But Sunraku shares that he will only support his friend, who has to fight against Toonguard. In this regard, he will be happy if boss gives them any helpful information. Boss takes a deep breath and shares that he has not seen Toonguard in the longest time, so there is not much he can say about what is happening with Toonguard right now. Sunraku begins telling boss what he knows about Toonguard. A group of players known as Peekers is using Toonguard for their malicious motives. Sunraku believes that if he fights against such a monster, there is a great chance that he will gain plenty of experience. He reveals that he knows all of this because his friend, who urged him to fight against Toonguard, is a part of the Peekers group. She genuinely dislikes Toonguard's existence and can do anything to defeat him. However, boss is still not convinced, knowing they have no chance of winning against Toonguard. He scolds Sunraku, saying that he never taught him that a Vorpal Soul should get himself into trouble recklessly. He suggests that they only pick a fight where they have a fair chance of winning. But Sunraku insists that he has already made a promise to his friend and can't back out. Moreover, he is not afraid to die because it's his moral duty to help his friend, and he feels honor-bound in this case. As for boss's concerns about his weakness, Sunraku shares that he has 14 days to learn and train himself. He will try his best to prepare to fight against this challenging monster. The word honor-bound captures boss's attention, and suddenly, he begins talking about the nature of the unique monster Toonguard. Boss tells him that Toonguard is an emotionless living corpse who lost his own wife due to a lie. His body is practically immortal. The boss gets up from his seat and tells Sunraku that someone must punish him. However, he has no intention of fighting against them. If Sunraku wants to go against them, then he can go ahead. Afterward, he calls Sunraku to come after him because he wants to help him in this cause. They enter a forge. At the same time, Sunraku wins the badge for the best communication. Boss calls his daughter Bilek to come out as he has to talk about something. Bilek is a brown rabbit who is surprised to see Boss in the forge because he has not visited it for quite some time. Emil calls her sister, and Sunraku thinks that it is possible that each Rabbituza citizen's father is Boss Vash. At the same time, Bilek confirms that Sunraku is the same guy about whom Emil told her. Emil introduces them, and Boss asks Sunraku to hand him over his vorpal weapons. He gives both blades to Boss, who appreciates that they are in fine shape. Then he tells Bilak that he will bring these blades to their true form. They just need to sit back and watch the process. Boss shares that he wants someone to defeat that silly tomb guard. At this time, he could not bear to sit idle, so he decided to help them. Bilek gets too excited to hear that, and she runs to light the forge. In the meantime, Boss asks Sunraku to give him anything that could be valuable in the process of forging his blades into their true shape. Sunraku begins scrolling through his loot items. He sold most of the items that he gained from his own efforts. The one shell of quad beetles is still in his inventory, which he gives to Boss, while Bilek has lit the forge in the meantime. The boss accepts that shell and begins taking out his tools. Bilek tells Sunraku that he must be happy that Boss is wielding blades for him, because he rarely does this for anyone. It's unbelievable for Sunraku. Bilek shares that their brother stole the kingship, and she took over the forge. They are so proud that Boss is an excellent blacksmith, which is far too much for an ordinary craftsman. Thus, he rightly won the title of Divine Craftsman. Until then, Boss heated the blades in the fire. After heating, he put the blade on the table and began striking a hammer on it. With each strike, a bunch of magic circles rose and then absorbed into the blades. Sunraku was astonished and asked Bilek about it. She shared that her father ascends the blades in a special way. He reads the memories saved in the blades because the Vorpal blades have the ability to store memories. Since he has fought against the Lycagon monster, she is already excited to see what shape this blade will take. At the same time, they hear that Boss Vash is singing a song. Emil and Bilek hush him, and they begin listening to him. He sings that a blade sings and a hammer dances, so the blade will tell what it actually is. In his song, he tells how they bring the metal from the ground and then forge it from iron to steel. It ultimately takes the shape of a blade that becomes a sword, shining in the darkness of night and dancing through the battlefields. Finally, Sunraku's Vorpal choppers are ready and Boss shows them. Now they will be referred to as moonblades due to their unique crescent shape. Sunraku is happy to see two blades. Boss explains that each blade complements the function of the other. Also, Boss has not seen the blades changing shapes for quite a while, so that was surprising for him. Sunraku is so happy and begins checking his new blade's stats. He reads that the fusion gauge collects the points of each blade and compensates for the HP lost in a fight. That means they combine during a fight. With a lot of excitement, he picks up the blades to try them right away. But an error sign appears, telling Sunraku that his stats are not matching the requirements to use the Moonblade. He begins looking into the explanation, and after adding up his points, he calculates that he cannot use them until he is at least at level 50. The boss tells him to train himself immediately to start using it. Sunraku almost cries with immense impatience that he cannot wait to use them. After some time, Sunraku reaches the restaurant, the Serpent's Apple. He has to meet his friends Katsuo and Pencilgan to discuss their plan. He scratches his back weirdly and apologizes for joining them late. Pencilgan smashes her sandwich in her hand with anger, while Katsuo shouts with anger that they have been waiting for him for the last 3 hours. She does not accept his apology, so Sunraku tells them what he was doing was useful for their upcoming fight. He says that when he took the name of Tombguard in the unique scenario, quite an interesting discussion began in the unique scenario, so he had to stop and listen to that. That captures Katsuo and Pencilgan's attention, and they want to know the information. Sunraku has wrapped Emil secretly around his neck to hide her from his friends. Katsuo gets angry that he cannot forgive him just like that. Sunraku sarcastically points out Katsuo's weird avatar and his strange game names. Then he sits on the chair and begins to say that it was so hard to reach there as it was a secret place to gather for players. Pencilgan also shares that she took a long way away from the city's crowd to reach here. This place is a quiet one where they can easily talk. Sunraku tells him everything that Boss Vash told him about the Tomb Guard. Pencilgan gets worried to hear that the Tomb Guard is an undead monster, also known as a corpse living beyond its lifetime. That explains his weird movements. She was wrong about him all the time when she thought of Tombguard as a cyborg, but he is actually undead. Sunraku asks Pencilgan what their next move is. Pencilgan suddenly gets up from her seat, saying that she needs some time to think. Until then, they should go to the Iron Ruins and explore their talents. She gives a fishing rod and a map to each one of them and begins moving towards the door. Suddenly, she looks back and finds Emil hanging from Sunraku's neck. She sarcastically asks Sunraku if it's a new fashion to wrap puffy fur around the neck. Sunraku is still trying to hide Emil and says that it's a new fashion. Pencilgan had seen Emil, but she did not want to talk about it yet. She knows that Sunraku is trying to make them fools by keeping Emil along and hiding it from their eyes. After saying that she would meet at night, she goes out of the restaurant. Katsuo is already excited to explore the iron ruins. But before they leave, Sunraku begins searching for the ideal route towards the iron ruins, which is safe too. At the same time, Emil begins whispering to Sunraku that she has got an earache and she can't control herself in the hanging position anymore. Katsuo also starts looking around for the origin of the sound. Sunraku scratches his cheeks to see what he should do now. Katsuo shouts that his neck equipment, which he pointed to earlier, is talking. Sunraku permits Emil to get down on the floor. Suddenly, Emil falls down and Katsuo gets so excited to touch her, thinking that it's an NPC item. He pinches Emil's cheeks while she cries, telling him to let her go. On their way to the iron ruins, Katsuo keeps repeating that he wants a similar NPC item too. He is quite jealous that Sunraku collects all the lucky and unique stuff. Sunraku stops him and asks him to concentrate on the route because he wants to increase his stats soon to reach level 50. Only then will he be able to use his new Moonblade. Katsuo and Sunraku have been fighting alone in the SLF. It's their first time that they will get into any area and fight in a party. Suddenly, they see a big metal building in front of them with illuminating lines on it. The scene is unique from the rest of the game design. Sunraku identifies that they have reached the iron ruins of divinity. Now, Pensilgan discusses with Katsuo and Sunraku how they will fight Toonguard. Pensilgan explains that at the start of the battle, Toonguard will activate a skill that sets the max level of all characters in the battle area, except for him, to level 50. This is why their levels don't matter. Katsuo and Sunraku are shocked to hear that Toonguard is level 200. As they are low-level players, they only need to reach level 50. As Katsuo and Sunraku walk through the iron ruins, they discuss that they will have to make all the effort to reach level 50. As Pensilgan said, they keep grinding to level up their skills. So, they open the map of the iron ruins because there is an area that is considered ideal for practicing. Katsuo wants to keep trying until they reach a higher level. The inside design of the iron ruins looks like the setting of a spaceship. It's also different from the rest of the game. The black panels are sliding from their places. It's like floating in the air. Suddenly, Katsuo remembered that he had seen a similar design in another game. Sunraku wants to know what Katsuo's level is in this god-tier game. Katsuo is only a level 25 player, so Sunraku feels a little superior as he is already at the 31st level, so he would have to make less effort to reach the 50th level. Sunraku makes fun of him. Suddenly, Emil warns them to be careful as a big pyramid is approaching them. They hardly run away and save themselves from being crushed by it. That is a suppression drone type pyramid. Katsuo tells Sunraku that he can handle the pyramid himself. The god-tier game SLF allows all players to handle tougher enemies like those pyramids, even if they are mid-level players. It does not matter. Sunraku agrees to just watch, as Katsuo will use his own skills to fight the pyramids. Emil is still concerned that it will be hard for Katsuo to handle it alone. But Sunraku says it's Katsuo's own wish to fight alone. Suddenly, Katsuo destroys the dome with his punch using his repel counter skill. Sunraku watches Katsuo with amazement as his hands are surrounded by an illuminating aura. Katsuo shares that he used magic to strengthen the power, making his hand light up, which is called the Spirit Fist. Katsuo runs towards another dome and explains that as his job, he picked a Spirit Fist user monk. He tells Sunraku that even though he can't use weapons, his magic fist will do the job very well. Sunraku appreciates Katsuo's fighting style as he finishes all the domes even before they come after him. Katsuo makes guesses about what he used to fight. He makes wrong guesses, but Sunraku tells him that he is just lucky in his fights. Emil speaks up and explains that it is his Vorpal Soul that helps him win the fights. Katsuo is totally confused about what a Vorpal Soul is. Sunraku takes out his map of the Iron Ruins, which Pensilgan gave him, and reads that there is a path that will lead them to the secret area of the Iron Ruins. They begin walking towards it by passing along the left side of the plate with a big hole. Then they jump over the fissure. Now they jump onto a floating plate that is damaged from the side. Then they begin walking straight again. They are all impressed by the person who made the map because it must have required a lot of patience. The whole area is just like a maze. The final instruction is to jump into a hole to reach the secret area. Suddenly, they stop and see the deep and dark hole down below. Katsuo gets so nervous to see the deep hole and gets suspicious that this is a plan to finish them. But Sunraku assures him that Pensilgan cannot deceive them, or he will make her apologize for the worst prank ever. Katsuo pats the head of Emil and smiles, telling her they don't know what is down there, so he does not want Sunraku to go ahead alone and get into unknown danger. Therefore, he says that he will go first. Sunraku thanks him for his courageous effort, and Katsuo jumps inside the hole. Emil appreciates that Katsuo is an amazing lady as she is kind, strong, and so brave. But Sunraku mentions that Katsuo is not a girl. He tells Emil that sometimes a person can look like a woman, but they've got the soul of a man. Emil gets so surprised to hear it and tells life holds so many mysteries. Sunraku hears Katsuo's sound coming from the hole. Katsuo tells Sunraku to come down, loser. Sunraku pretends that he didn't hear anything. but Emil tells him that she clearly heard that Katsuo was calling Sunraku a loser and asking him to get down. Sunraku gets so angry and embarrassed and shouts that he will get some revenge. Then he jumps down into the hole with Emil. As they reach the bottom of the iron ruins, they see Katsuo standing in front of them. He gets surprised to see that they arrived at the secret area. According to Pencilman's instructions, they can fish up a monster called the life-style lake serpent in the Tearlight Lake. Katsuo asks if they can fish up a monster with their puny little rods, but Sunraku tells him to give it a try. They get ready and start fishing in the Tearlight Lake. Sunraku and Katsuo both wait for the monster to come to the rod. They wait to see who wins by catching the monster first. Suddenly, Sunraku feels that he got a bite already. He thinks that he used to go fishing with his father all the time, so he knows all the tips and tricks. But Katsuo thinks it's all because of his luck stat. Sunraku only catches a life-sized salmon fish. Unfortunately, that's not what they are looking for. At the same time, Katsuo excitedly tells him that he has something stuck in his fishing rod, to which Sunraku says it'll be another salmon. But to everyone's shock, it's a big serpent. Seeing the serpent, Sunraku decides that he will fight the monster. But to fight with this monster, he needs some nice weapons. Katsuo tells him that he cannot use the Moonblade before reaching level 50. But Sunraku smirks and tells him he has one more weapon. He takes out his new weapon, and it's called the Empire B Twin Blades. At the same time, the serpent attacks them, but they jump back and avoid it. Katsuo is surprised to hear that he has another new weapon. Emil tells him that her big sister B made them for Sunraku. Looking back, Bilek made a weapon with the Empire B Queen material that Sunraku brought. After she made the Empire B Twin Blades, she shouts at Sunraku to wake up. They have been sleeping there for a long time. Bilek gets angry when Sunraku finds that she has quickly made the twin blades. She knows that they respect her in front of her father, but Sunraku clears up her misunderstanding as he never makes fun of anyone. He comes closer to Bilek and asks what he will do if he has no weapons as his main weapon is gone. Sunraku lifts the twin blades and thinks that he will have to establish affection levels with rabbits other than Emil and Vash. He starts getting traumatized flashbacks from a trash game called a dating sim. He remembers that once he had to balance affection levels between 12 girls without a moment's slip. If he could make the slightest mistake by neglecting them for a moment, it would trigger a domino effect, and the others would also reduce their affection level. In the end, he would get the bad ending where all the girls moved to Italy to apprentice at a pizzeria. And in the end, Sunraku Picklefish's adolescence is crushed beneath a pizza stone. Sunraku gets out of his depression and compliments Bilek for making his new weapon. Bilek informs him that the right-hand blade has a special attribute. We now see as he puts it to work against the serpent. Suddenly, Katsuo jumps away from the serpent and says that it looks so tough, and their level is too low to put more than a scratch on it. Sunraku explains that some weapons, skills, spells, and monster attacks have the corrode attribute which destroys part of an avatar itself. If the avatar deals enough damage to a certain part, then it'll cause visible damage and create a weak point there. Bilek then explains that his weapon doesn't corrode in the normal way. It infects the part he attacks and corrodes it over time. It's like a corrosive poison. The corrode attribute builds up and worms its way in little by little. If he keeps dealing more corrosive poison with repeated strikes, then it'll break through the enemy's debuff resistance and cause the corrode attribute to show itself faster. Finally, Sunraku strips away the serpent's scales and creates a weak point. Katsuo then attacks it using the Black Spirit Fist. Emil wants to help them using her magic spell book. The serpent attacks her, and Sunraku can't get to her in time. But Katsuo jumps in and takes the hit, saving Emil. Katsuo withstands the attack as he builds himself as a tank damager. In the next attack, they all combine their power and attack at once and defeat it. They are all happy as they defeated the serpent. Sunraku is happy to see his stats as he has already leveled up. Katsuo also reaches level 4 and unlocks new skills. He wonders if he can link them at the skill garden. Sunraku wonders if he is mistaking SLF for another game, as he doesn't know what skill link is. Katsuo tells him SLF is a game about skills, as he can combine the skills he has and create a new combo skill. He reminds Sunraku that he should have already learned about it in Firstia, the starting town. But to his surprise, Sunraku never went there. Katsuo explains that skills with proficiency levels can be linked up at a facility called the Skill Garden that allows them to create some new combo skills. Sunraku now realizes why some of his skills changed their names, and some skills just came up with level numbers to raise, as they can be linked up. Katsuo explains there are a lot more things he can do in the skill garden. After hearing that, Sunraku gets shocked at how much he missed by skipping one little town. Sunraku thinks that regret will just make him depressed, so he starts to grind more. He starts fishing in the lake and intends to catch a big eel. It's the only way he knows how to keep himself busy and get out from the bad memories. After some time, Pensilgan regroups with them and sees that Katsuo is level 40 and Sunraku is level 42 now. She is amazed that they achieved this level in such a short amount of time. Katsuo tries to explain that Sunraku skipped the tutorial at first year, but Sunraku quiets him down. Katsuo is amazed by Emel's attack power, and Sunraku explains that his dear little friend is already level 56. He tells Pensilgan that the tent is a handy little thing as it lets them make a save point. She explains that it's super expensive for something with a limited number of uses, and if they weren't pressed for time, then they never use it. She tells them it's time for them to meet someone, and it's the only time they can meet her as it's a full moon night. In order to fight Toonguard, they need to talk to the unique NPC named Setsuna of bygone days. Elsewhere on the full moon night, we see Setsuna as she is singing beside a tree. And that's the end of the 12th episode of Shangri-La Frontier. Please comment and let me know which anime recap you'd like to see next. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, goodbye.